Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Steve Swatton. I'm the CEO of CopperCorp, and I think this presentation is going to be a little bit different from the last one. That was a pretty mature mining belt that Brian was talking about in Canada. I'm going to be talking about CopperCorp, which has got an asset in Tasmania, which is an island off the southern coast of Australia. This location, it's a bit of a strange to have a TSX-listed company with an asset in Tasmania. The simple answer to that is one of the major original shareholders was a person probably you know quite well, Ross Beatty, and a whole bunch of other people lined in behind him. So that was why it's listed in Canada, but ostensibly it's run by Tasmanians in Tasmania, and we have two gentlemen who put the land package together. And today, because I've got a shortage of time, just 15 minutes, I'm going to talk mainly about the Razorback property. The Razorback property is just south of a known mine called Mt Lyell. There's 4 mines, operating mines in the area, and there's a 5th one called Savage River, which is owned by Chinese, so they've got a conveyor belt to a port in the north. It's a fairly large. These mines are not insignificant. Rosebery's now 72 million tons of roughly 12% zinc and various other base metal, and it's got copper as well. What I'm going to be talking about is a 2,000 square kilometer land package. I understand the last gentleman said 800 square kilometers. In this part of the world, there's not too much competition. I mean, we're one of a handful of junior companies operating there. And it's not because it's remote or it's difficult to get to. It's just that it's largely being overlooked by the juniors because it's the playground of the seniors. And that lays into our hand slightly because in that largest box that you have there, that's the only area that really mining companies and exploration companies allow to operate in Tasmania. Because you've probably heard or whatever you've seen before about Tasmania, it is a beautiful part of the world and it's famous for its rivers, mountains, hiking, kayaking and all that. But this northwest part of it has got 4 pretty large 5th operating mines, if one's coming into production, that actually drive the economy of Tasmania. And it's 500,000 people. And I would say that in this northwest part, there's about 3,000 people. Each person is either directly or indirectly related to the mining industry. So the Mt Lyell property that I was talking to you about has been mined for over 100 years. It was closed in 2014. Unfortunately, there was a few deaths and the state government closed the mine down. It's subsequently gone through several hands. It's ended up in the hands of Sibanye at the moment, who have just recently put out some news that they're going to put it back into production. They didn't actually state when, but the feasibility study, the final feasibility is coming through. And it's looking like they have still 1 million tons that they can see without further drilling. And if you take the inferred resource as well as part of that resource calculation, it's certainly in the 2 to 3 million ton contained copper availability in the ground. And that's not counting the gold, which is at the moment about 300,000 ounces, probably up to 1 million ounces. So what I'm showing on there is that the purple is the alteration. And we have, if you go up to the top right, we have all that ground within the light blue. Those are targets that were outlined back in the 1980s mainly, and that was the last time it was worked on with any juniors worked on it. Since then, there's been a small amount of drilling at just this place called Darwin, and we drilled it recently for rare earths, and we had some success with rare earths, but as we all know, it's not about finding rare earths, it's about the recoverability of rare earths. That's the most important thing. And we realized quite early on, we benefited as a result of having a discovery, but really the bread and butter is going to be the copper gold that we have in that area. So really it's a simple target. We're just doing the extension drilling, and also alongside this Linda North, Linda South, which you can see just to the left-hand side of Mt Lyell, is a completely blind target that we've recognized from geophysics. The company, just to step back a little bit, the company has 2,000 square meters. That Mt Lyell area is just at the bottom of your page there, and our ground that we're concentrating on at the moment is just the southern end. But we also have several other targets. The holding costs in Tasmania of ground is not too difficult for us to pay for each year. It's somewhere between 150 and 200,000. We are cutting the land package back somewhat. But there is some real advantage to working in this part of the world. We don't get interfered with any land right issues. There are no First Nations in Tasmania. It's completely 100% green power. It's 90% hydro, 10% wind. And obviously with 4 operating mines, we have a strong mining community. Some of the people who are involved in it, you might recognize Doug Kerwin, John Robbins. He was with Great Bear and Kaminak. Craig Roberts is an investor. The other people, other than myself, are mainly on the corporate finance side. This is I didn't really want to put that. I realized this was in there just before I came up here. This is I've been on the road now for 2 weeks, and just a little bit of background about myself. Everything in red is the junior end of my career, and everything in blue is the senior. And I was asked by several people, what credentials do you have to work in this space? I spent most of my life in the copper and gold space, most of which in my sort of mid and late 40s was with BHP, and spent a lot of time looking for copper. We recognized Tasmania was an area of interest, but at the time, the geologists were moved at the late 80s, early 90s, I found out, we had a discovery at Prominent Hill within BHP, and so a lot of the geologists were moved. And since then, this area has not received a lot of attention. A little bit of background on the company. We're currently with 2.5 million in the bank. Our market cap is roughly 8 million. We're trading around 8 cents. The share price has had a bit of a yo-yo ride for the last 6 months or so. And this is a result of, we have made a discovery. We made a discovery at a location called Dukes. And at this discovery, we've had 132 meters at 0.35% copper. Anywhere else in the world, this would be considered significant if it's at surface. Here, 50 meters. A second hole was 50 meters at 0.66. These are significant results. And if you follow Crescat at all, Quentin Henning was talking about us on 2 different podcasts. Honestly, I'd never met him before. I knew that Crescat were involved. I wasn't aware that he was going to do these podcasts, but I urge you to maybe have a look at those. And just whilst we're on the talk of podcasts, Antonio Atanasov came down to Tasmania and has done, I thought it was going to be a short video. It's a 2-hour-long, it's almost like a travel adventure around Tasmania, because Tasmania is a difficult place that I have to convince people to go down to or to consider as an investment when you're living in Vancouver. Just a little bit of background again on the location that we are. These other mines in production, the 4th point down there, I think it's 4th point down, Savage River, not insignificant, it's actually more likely 500 million tons at the moment. Rosebery's now 70 million tons. Henty was one of the highest grade gold mines in the Southern Hemisphere. Renison Belt is the largest tin mine in the Southern Hemisphere. So this island has a pretty endowed mining history and present ongoing situation. At Mt Lyell, 3 million tons have been mined from the location at 1% copper, and there's 3 million ounces have already been recovered. There's not been a lot of activity from Sivana. They've had their own internal difficulties as a company going forward, and I won't go into it, but they've turned their attention now to Mt Lyell. This is what it looks like at surface. It's not pretty, but it goes to show that in this, it looks a little bit like parts of northern Ontario, the ground around it, but least to say, we're not going to have any opposition from any local inhabitants. There's not a lot going on in this part of Tasmania. We're going to be concentrating on Dukes, Hydes, Linda North, Linda South. We have enough funds to be drilling Dukes, and we're going to continue drilling at Dukes. Real excitement seems to be at Hydes and Linda North, Linda South, none of which have been drilled before. So that's going to be our plan going forward, and simply was on a roadshow because we have enough money for the next round of drilling, but the one after that. I noticed earlier on one of Tara Hutton's talks there, he talked, Jonas, you mentioned that Philo was found on the 41st hole. We're only on the second hole and we've already had a discovery. So this was the discovery hole. We were actually targeting a magnetic anomaly. No surprise, we're drilling under an old timer's adit, and we did have some success with the first hole, and that's why we got 132 meters at 0.35. There's obviously some higher grade sections in it. What came as a complete surprise, on the right-hand side, you can see we intersected on the other side of the magnetic intrusion. Now, this came as somewhat interesting that we now want to step back onto the other side of the hill and drill back into it to understand the extent of this mineralization. This is what the mineralization looked like. There's Happy Me looking out, and that was when we got the higher price in their stock. As we were drilling this, it was interesting that there's a famous university in Tasmania called Codes. They provided us with some of this information that we weren't aware of, which is IP data, induced polarization, looking at the resistivity and the chargeability. And as you can see from the bottom where the ring is, we've drilled kind of almost due west, it looks like on there. We should have actually had the drill pointing northwest if you're to believe that IP is a good measure of where the mineralization is. And that black line on there is a paved road, and as you can see, we have some higher grade copper sampling from that location. So you don't need to be a rocket scientist to work out where we should be moving this new drill, and that's exactly what we're doing next month. Because next month it's better when we have more rain at site. We're now going into the fall in Tasmania to be drilling. During the summer it's not great because the streams dry up. Again, the most interest online and within our own board, as well as the hides, it's never been drilled before. It's about 2 kilometers south of Dukes. This is what the material looks like. And geophysically, it's a rock-up target here. It's a combined gravity magnetic anomaly. Previously, when BHP were there in the 80s, they took a trench at surface, 23 meters at 0.8% copper. This has never been drilled. So this is going to be one of our higher priority targets. And the Linda North and Linda South I mentioned earlier, they're completely buried. There's no surface expression. There is now a road up to the top there that was put in by the local town council. And we're quite excited because it's only 2 kilometers from this old mining camp at Mt Lyell. This is what Mt Lyell looks like. It's 22 different ore bodies, of which you see on there maybe a dozen of them. And Sibanye are making quite a lot of noise at the moment. Up until now, is a one-line mention in their reports about Mt Lyell. It's now a paragraph. And they had this picture in there showing where they're planning to mine. The feasibility, or I say the re-feasibility because it's already been mined, the feasibility to bring the mine back in production is due in Q4. They haven't announced when they're going to restart the mining, but there's still a lot of mining equipment. I can see a lot of trucks bringing a lot of equipment, so I assume that they're intending to start fairly soon. The government, the state of Tasmania, are giving them all sorts of grants to get the mine up and running again, and also they've been exonerated from any previous environmental destruction, of which there is some at Mt Lyell. This is what our model looks like, and on the left-hand side you see Mt Lyell. We think we have similar pulses of mineralization, similar to, I'll just go back to show you what it looks like there. We think we have similar on our property. Just a brief mention, I've got 1 minute to go, so I'm just finishing here. We have got one other type of rock. This is called the AMC. It's slightly older rock than the one I was talking about before. And within that, where we got the red arrow, we've actually drilled 15,000 meters into what looks to be an interesting asset. The only issue we have with this asset is that to do any extension drilling, we're going to have to go quite a lot deeper than we have now. We've done back of the envelope, non-43-101 compliant numbers. We seem to have 20 million tons at 1% copper. And we need to drill at least 700 plus meter drill holes. Junior company with limited resources. I'm leaving that to possibly a joint venture. We have some interesting approaches from not least of which some Japanese companies. And with that, I'm almost finished. We have the drill program going forward. This is our schedule going forward, and what we're going to be doing is drilling Hydes, Dukes, and Linda, reviewing options for joint venture with the other property, which AMC, the one I mentioned before. And I think that's it. Thank you very much.
We can take one quick question if anybody has it. We are running a little bit late.
That's not because of me.
No, it's not. Okay, that's it.
Thanks,
Steve. All right, we got a quick break, and we'll be back here now like 6 minutes to start on time. Thank you.